be nice if everybody got along. Everything was pretty and all that crap. But the world ain't like that. Night Watcher was beating the bad guys at their own game. Booyah! It's Johnny!
This Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game received an unfair reception straight out the gate by both critics and regular gamers. It seems like people have a very narrow vision in what a Ninja Turtles game should involve, and this one went heavily against that grain. This is TMNT for the Nintendo Wii. So what should a Turtles game involve? Ever since 1989, with the release of the massive hit arcade game, the majority of Turtle fans have a very particular idea of what it should be. Specifically, a beat-em-up with as many available players as controllers you can plug into the system. With very few exceptions, that's what we've been getting. Last generation, Konami tried to revive the video game franchise. 3 separate Turtle games were released to mediocre and abysmal reception. Shockingly, Ubisoft Montreal got their hands on the rights to develop this latest game, based on the recent computer animated movie, and they severely changed the usual formula. TMNT is a platformer. It follows a style that could only be done by allowing only a single player. Many people rejected this game on this basis alone, but I feel that doing so would be rather shallow. Just because there's 4 of these guys doesn't mean that we need yet another rehash of past games. I'm actually rather impressed that Ubisoft dared to change things up. Sadly, despite the ballsy maneuver in creating a game that no one expected, right off the bat, the game is riddled with problems. First off is the story. TMNT plays like some kind of disjointed highlight reel loosely based on the movie. If you haven't seen it, you'll probably be completely lost. If you have, you still might be a little confused as to what is going on. The game consists of the 4 Turtles and Master Splinter all sitting around and reminiscing their adventure, but failed to actually clue us in on what the overall plot is. I felt the story for the movie was good enough, but the presentation here is bad. At first, the platforming in this game feels like a dream. I started off playing the training level, and I was really looking forward to the adventure ahead of me. I was jumping, double jumping, scaling walls, hopping gaps, swinging on poles, shimmying across ledges, and more. It felt like I was actually playing as a ninja. It felt like my character on the screen was moving exactly how a ninja should. However, as I kept playing, it became very tiresome. You see, TMNT boils down to feeling like a building jumping simulator. So many levels consisted of the same handful of buildings copy and pasted over and over. Jumping across the same gap time and time again in excess of 20 minutes to finish the level became exceedingly dull. It's not as if the controls weren't there or that the gameplay was subpar. On the contrary, they were spectacular. It's just that the level design is so incredibly lame and that it does nothing but repeat itself. There are several levels that consist of jumping across tall buildings and they all feel exactly the same. The multiple sewer levels didn't fare much better either. While the platforming never becomes outright bad, the fighting is another story. Taking up a fourth of the gameplay is some of the most dull and pointless combat I have ever seen. Thanks to poorly tacked on motion sensing controls, it's terrible. There is absolutely no strategy in knocking out these brain-dead enemies, and so in turn, all of the fighting segments are just mindlessly shaking the Wii Remote rapidly back and forth to take everyone out. Carbon copy clones will come at you in mass, and your hand will hurt from all the shaking. It's maddening and not fun at all. The combat here is outright bad. Boss battles are a little more interesting, though not by much. TMNT is a game that I want to be good. It feels like a game that should be good. The graphics hold up, the art style is nice, and the game's source material is strong. I welcome the change in style that this installment brought. TMNT probably looks entertaining at a glance. You can't really see the pure repetition this game holds by watching a mere 3-minute video. While the platforming controls are tight, everything else is dull as dirt. TMNT is like busy work. It's fun for the first half hour, but then you've seen everything. You can't base an entire game around jumping between what feels like the same few platforms. While TMNT would still be an average game on any other system when played with a regular controller, the awful combat controls using the Wii Remote drag this title down even further. I give TMNT on the Nintendo Wii a 4 out of 10.